In this video, I'll be teaching you the fundamentals of Deceive Inc. so that you can begin with a head start or improve your gameplay in a concise, easy to understand guide to the game. As for my credentials, I'm an experienced player with over 800 hours in the game, a win rate of 45% over the span of 6,300 matches played as of the uploading of this video, so you'll be in good hands. Later on, I'll be providing some pro tips to help you go even further to gain the advantage in your matches, so be sure to stick around for that. Welcome in, my name is Full Metal Croak, and I hope you find this video to be useful. I'd also highly advise you play Deceive Inc.'s own tutorial before you watch this video. This guide may stand out on its own, but having the full context of the tutorial should help you out a whole lot. In order to do this, you want to click on the tab underneath Matchmaking Type, and in the bottom right corner you will see Tutorial. Then click play and it'll launch you into the tutorial even if you've already completed it. That being said, let's get right into it. A brief overview of what your objective is in Deceive Inc. is to strengthen your character by collecting perks known as field upgrades as well as keycards, while attempting to hack the 3 vault terminals to open the vault. However, when you eliminate other players, you may pick up their collected items as well, so you don't have to always do all the hard work. Inside of the vault is where the briefcase is, and this is the primary objective of the game. You want to extract with this. And you can extract from the map and win without all players being eliminated if you're extra sneaky. Speaking of eliminating other players, this item, the Spy Cache, spawns whenever you eliminate an enemy agent. If you loot this, you'll gain a bit of health, all of their intel, and instantly regain your cover. Make sure you pick these up after a fight so that you can blend right back in. Once you've loaded into a match of Deceive Inc. for the first time, the first thing you'll want to do is gather intel. Typically, the game will spawn you next to a few good sources of intel. Everything that you do in Deceive centers around how much intel you have on you at the time or how well you allocate your resources. A good example of this is, if you'd like to strengthen yourself by collecting a field upgrade, you will almost always need to access a room with a heightened disguise requirement. The only exception to this is the gray field upgrade, which you can find out in the open. It only costs 1 intel, so grab one if you pass by it. To enter these valuable rooms, you are going to need intel. This is what all your sources of intel within the game look like. The number on the device correlates to how much intel you'll gain by hacking it, and the time that it takes to hack these devices increases as well depending on that number, so keep that in mind. Once you've gained sufficient intel, you can decide which room you'd like to enter, a green or staff room, or a blue or guard room. Of course, you'll want to be sure to blend in using the proper disguise. Most things are color-coded in Deceive Inc. You'll want to be in the disguise that matches the room you're entering, or any of the disguise tiers above the room in question. If you're not in a correct disguise, you'll be scolded by the NPCs. They work as a form of security, ensuring that nobody enters rooms that they are not allowed to be in. For a player, this means your cover will be blown and you'll start gaining heat. Purple and blue guards will shoot you and or punch you, whereas green staff members or technicians will scold you but not attempt to harm you. Blue guards deal 10 damage melees and 5 damage gunshots, whereas purple guards deal 10 damage melees and 10 damage gunshots, so they're a bit more deadly. Make sure you break line of sight and regain your cover before your heat level gets too high. I'll go further into heat in a later section. The advantages of entering a green room at the start is it'll cost you only 3 intel, is not connected to another unlockable door, and is a fairly quick way to gain your green field upgrade. The advantages of entering a blue room is that you may have an early shot at more powerful blue, purple, and or gold field upgrades. Blue rooms typically are more contested early on for experienced players, as they tend to be in a rush to gain their most powerful field upgrades. Eventually you'll want to have a collection of keycards and field upgrades so that you can access more valuable areas without spending so much intel. But before I explain more about keycards and field upgrades, I'd like to go over general movement and survivability. One of the most important mechanics in Deceive Inc. for the sake of both defense and offense is movement. What is it that causes you to suspect an NPC of being a player in disguise? Let's discuss this for a moment. Going back to the tutorial, one of the first segments is one where you have a large screen in front of yourself. The tutorial will allow you to see how you look from another person's point of view. One important thing to keep in mind is some key things that the AI does or does not do that allows somebody to distinguish them. One specific behavior that the AI often does is they walk or run in a straight line for the most part. One mistake I often find new players do is something commonly referred to as wobbling. This is typically because their attention is split between hacking with a spyglass gadget, attempting to suss somebody out, and movement. One of the best methods to understanding AI movement is through the navigation mode, or nav mode. You can highlight vault terminal rooms with this and it'll draw a line on the floor to tell you where to go. Additionally, this line works as an amazing guideline for the exact path the AI would follow to reach that destination. Here is an example of a player walking using the line from navigation mode. Here is an example of a player walking without nav mode while doing what was previously described as wobbling. Another tip that should help quite a lot is to know that the AI are never meant to jump. Only a player is going to jump, so if you see somebody jumping, go ahead and shoot, or maybe trail them for a better opening. Additionally, most of the time the AI will not path in certain specific ways, such as on this staircase on Diamond Spire. Using nav mode, we can see that they take a tight turn around the stairs. I've determined that somebody else is a player based on the fact that they took a wide berth around this staircase, which is not something an NPC would typically do. That's not to say that running around in an obvious way can't be useful. Later on, once we get to some pro tips, I'll show you how sprinting and jumping can actually be quite useful as a proactive tool. If you can master the basic movement of Deceive Inc, you'll learn to avoid fights or take fights only when you've chosen to take them, likely with the upper hand. An important mechanic to keep in mind is something called the heat system. This is a system preventing players from going wild and shooting every single NPC that they see, punishing overly aggressive gameplay. As you knock out NPCs, you will gain various levels of heat. Heat level 1 will cause you to receive 25% more damage, level 2 increases to 50%, and finally heat level 3 gives you 75% increased damage, and gives you the exposed status effect, meaning you cannot regain cover for a brief period of time. Heat will gradually wear off if you remain in cover. You can still sprint, hack intel, and your heat will continue to decline. I'd advise sitting in a chair or hiding for a brief period if you gained excess heat, otherwise you may get into a fight that could send you out of the match very quickly. Non-hostile NPCs such as civilians, staff members, and technicians will provide one full level of heat, meaning if you knock even one of them out, you're going to be in a lot of trouble going into a fight. Hostile NPCs such as blue or purple guards will just give you barely less than half of a heat level, meaning you can get away with knocking down 2 guards before you hit level 1 heat. Finally, knocking out a VIP will max out your heat level all the way up to level 3. You will want to be very careful before you shoot a VIP. One mechanic of Deceive Inc that I didn't properly understand until I had been playing for a month or two is gadgets. I'll provide a quick showcase of the gadgets in Deceive Inc and provide some key information about them so you can choose which two you'd like to use. Here is a list of all the currently available gadgets in Deceive Inc, including a few pro tips to help you jumpstart on your selection of 2 gadgets to bring into matches. Starting with the defense category, we have the Bounce Mat. The Bounce Mat is an extremely useful gadget with uses as multi-layered as the player using it. For basics, the Bounce Mat may be placed using the left mouse button, then inflated or deflated by using the right mouse button. Additionally, you may instantly deploy the Bounce Mat underneath you by using the right mouse button while it's in your hands. As of recent changes, the Bounce Mat will automatically deflate after a short moment. In my opinion, this is one of the best gadgets in the game as the mobility it provides is incredibly important to have access to for chasing players, escaping players, and various other reasons. A quick pro tip for the Bounce Mat is that you may use this tool to bounce a player who is directly next to you away. If they're using a shotgun or preparing a strike with their sword as a sorry, this will mess up their game plan for a brief moment, possibly allowing you to focus on your next shot. Then we have the Shieldbrella. The Shieldbrella can be used by left-clicking to hold the shield out, which is very useful for approaching somebody if your agent's effective range is close. If you right-click, you drop a deployable version of the shield which can take hits and be picked back up for redeployment once again. It also has a small weak point that, if shot, will instantly destroy it. As of the making of this video, this gadget is likely the best gadget in the game, though it has a very high skill ceiling, but its uses are very multi-layered as well. A pro tip for the Shieldbrella is that characters with very powerful weapons that need a moment to cool down, such as Ace's starting sniper rifle, may shoot, then hold the shield out to take a few hits, then shoot again, and so on. This will potentially cause your opponent to reload or at the very least get frustrated, which you may then punish. The automated turret is a fun gadget that allows you to drop it mid-fight or prepare it if you're anticipating an upcoming attack, and it'll shoot for you. You may also right-click to view the turret's POV, though I find very few uses for this. Overall, this gadget is decent. The turret is fairly simple, but one pro tip is that you can place it in a plant or in a way that it's obscured for your enemies. This way they won't be able to easily react and shoot at it, so this might cause them to turn and run away or simply take the damage that the turret dishes out, meaning that you'll be able to defeat them more easily. Onto the deception category, the Holo Mimic allows you to scan a valid object by holding left click, and then you may disguise yourself as that object by holding it out and clicking right click. This gadget is extremely fun for its potential to allow you to escape from fights, peek corners, or other miscellaneous shenanigans. I would highly recommend this gadget for a newer player looking to blend in and stay safe. One pro tip for the Holo Mimic that still fools me to this day is if I'm chasing a player, they turn a corner and all of a sudden it's as if they've disappeared. Sometimes it just so happens that they are using the Holo Mimic and they've transformed just out of line of sight and I did not hear the noise that it makes. Do this, I will hate you for it, and you'll have to keep yourself from cracking up when players just run right past you. One additional pro tip for the Holo Mimic is that you may use it to enter a room you don't have the proper disguise for, then you may take that disguise from an NPC inside. side. The guards only see you as a plant, toilet, or water cooler for that matter. A guard wouldn't scold a water cooler, so you're all good to grab that disguise. The Signal Scrambler is a fairly underrated gadget that allows you to deny players the use of some key gadgets, preventing their bounce mat from inflating, taking them out of their holomimic, disabling their automated turret, just to name a few. This gadget requires a reasonable amount of knowledge of the game's mechanics, so I'd suggest learning this tool at a later point. However, an experienced player can make some strong plays with this item. A strong pro tip for the Signal Scrambler is that you can turn off somebody's deployed shield with this tool. Sadly, as this is reactionary, you may still be at a disadvantage while doing this. However, some shield users will be very shocked by this, and it might just turn the tide in your favor. Trap gadgets are sticky little things such as the goo pods. You can drop these and all NPCs or players who walk through them will walk through at a very slow rate. If you right click after they're deployed, you may turn them off to toggle for a crucial moment if you'd like to surprise a player in an ambush. A pro tip with the goo pods is that you can throw them at the feet of somebody you believe is a player just before shooting them. If you're correct, you can have them in a really dangerous situation. This is especially effective if you're playing an agent who does not have a slow effect baked into their arsenal. The hack trap allows you to trap almost any hackable item in the game, such as a door, a piece of intel, a health station, and many more. If a player hacks that door or piece of intel, you'll see a snapshot of that player through walls and also gain 3 intel. This is useful for defending an area that you are currently looting, or just to plop onto blue doors for some easy intel while you're across the map. A pro tip for the hack trap is to place traps onto any room you enter and plan on remaining in for a moderate period of time. Or if you'd like to farm intel, they may be placed on all outward blue doors across the map, even if you don't plan on entering those rooms. Players must enter blue rooms to progress the game, and you most commonly get hack trapped on them. Tripwires are nifty little devices that you can place across from each other in order to create a line in between. If a rival agent walks through them, it'll break their cover and trace them for a short time. These are oftentimes better than hack traps for defending yourself, as you'll be able to see exactly where the player is for a short time, in comparison to the snapshot provided by hack traps. Though you will need to place them in key locations for them to be of much use, I'd suggest placing them defensively. A pro tip for the tripwires: sometimes you can get away with using the environment to prevent players from jumping over them, which is the natural counter to them. Place one tripwire on the floor by a door and another at an elevated position. In some circumstances, this makes it impossible to avoid without destroying it. Nearly done. To start the recon category, we have the recon drone. The drone is a fun little tool that you can use to shoot tracing darts from either your hand, or you may deploy the drone and fly it around to trace people that are very far away. I feel this gadget is more practical in teams modes, but it's always fun to use. Just be careful using it from your hand. A keen player will know that somebody's nearby, as the dart may be traced for just a fraction of a second. It is possible the line may be noticed and you can have your cover blown by this. The drone in its deployed form removes this issue altogether. The best pro tip I can think of for the recon drone is that if you notice a guard entering a room that you need access to, but you do not have that keycard for, you can park the drone in the middle of the door to hold it open, then you can enter the room and collect your drone, effectively saving you intel. Lastly, we have the spyglass. Very simple but very effective. You'll want to hold right click to scope in, and then hold left click to hack just as you would anything else. This effectively gives you a high range to hack as you please, all while not looking suspicious for standing right next to a door. Keep in mind, many players wobble because they're too focused on hacking with the spyglass to focus on their own movement. If you get shot due to this, you'll have a very difficult time recovering after swapping over to your weapon. Altogether, if used well, this gadget will help you blend in very, very well. My pro tip for the spyglass would be that it can be used while sitting in a chair or other similar social interactions. This allows you to blend in even further while hacking remotely. Conversely, experienced players may sprint and hack very quickly with a spyglass if they believe they're safe while doing so. Lootables are a type of item in Deceive Inc that you loot and are found in most locations where you'd find intel, sometimes keycards, lost and found boxes, etc. The first lootables released were fairly casual, but the most recent one can be game-changing. XP cassettes are lootables that instantly provide you with 200 XP. Credit purses instantly grant you 25 XP and 25 credits for unlocking cosmetics, agents, and other things. Piles of bonds instantly give you 25 XP and 5 bonds, Deceive Inc's premium currency. The most recent type of lootable is the first aid vial. You can hold 3 on your person at any given time and they heal you for 20 HP each. To use them, you will want to press X on your keyboard and a meter will fill for 3 seconds. Once this is complete, you'll be healed. If you take any damage, shoot, sprint, etc., this will interrupt the progress. You will want to take care and use these only when you can afford the time. I found myself bounce matting up to high ground around and activating them as soon as I can for a cheeky heal. This can also be very risky though, because your opponent may have a bounce mat and they can bounce up to interrupt you. In addition to this, a first aid vial dispenser was added to staff rooms so that you can purchase them and take them on the go for the cost of 3 intel. This is very similar to the ammo dispensers in the guard rooms that I've completely forgotten to mention up to this point. Use these if you're running low on ammo. They also cost 3 intel. Would you like to avoid hacking altogether and holding on to some of your hard-earned intel? Look no further than keycards. These very well may be the most valuable items you can gather in all of Deceive Inc. Beyond the value of being able to save on intel, having access to these keycards will allow you to make easier escapes if your opponent does not have them. Got shot at? Run into a blue room. If the door closes in front of them, they may need to spend a few seconds hacking the door before they can continue the fight. They may also take additional shots from the surrounding guards. Taking damage interrupts hacking, so this may cause them to abandon the chase altogether. In addition to this, you will also want the blue and or purple keycards in order to contest the briefcase in the endgame phase of the match. The best way to locate keycards is to listen for the ringing sound that is always coming from them. Sometimes this may even be heard through walls. Typically, I dictate a good or a bad match based on how many keycards I have as it's approaching the vault phase of the game. Speaking of the vault phase of the game, which I would describe as the endgame, it's important to know that the inside of the vault is the only hard-coded area in which you can locate the VIP keycard. Beyond this, with some big luck, you may use the lost and found boxes located within green or staff rooms to take a chance for 5 intel to possibly get a good item. These lost and found boxes may contain anything from a green keycard all the way up to a gold field upgrade. This also includes credits, bonds, XP cassettes, but does not include the gold or VIP keycard. If I'm finding myself opening vault terminals that are empty because another player already cleared out the area, I'll usually try hitting up the lost and found boxes. Speaking of keycard locations, you can find green keycards anywhere that intel may be found out in the open, in drawers, or in green or staff rooms. Blue keycards may be found in blue or guard rooms, and seemingly rarely within staff rooms as well. Purple keycards may be found in 2 specific locations. Of the 5 available terminal rooms noted by the A, B, C, D, E on the map, 3 are vault terminals that progress the game and provide a gold field upgrade. 2 are empty rooms that contain a single purple keycard and 2 purple field upgrades. As you might expect, this makes the purple keycard fairly rare. Beyond this, you can also find the purple keycard inside of the purple or technician rooms inside of the vault. Before I move on to an explanation of field upgrades, I'd like to take the time to give you some general pro tips as I mentioned at the start of the video, so if you'd really like to advance your game, look no further. Later on, we'll be discussing the final vault phase where all remaining players will be fighting for the briefcase. During this phase, you'll encounter a VIP or gold door. In order to open this, you'll need to first access a vault printer. This is the final block that prevents you from claiming the briefcase. However, did you know that this light above the door will let you know if a player is currently already inside the golden room? If it's green, you can probably relax. However, if it's red, a player is currently inside of the room and will probably have the briefcase within seconds. What I typically do is activate the vault printer, then gather intel for spending on seeing players through walls once I've grabbed the briefcase. If at any point I notice that light turn red, I'll be ready to reposition myself for a fight, or if I have the gold keycard, I'll rush in to interrupt my opponent. If you have a bounce mat and your opponent does not have one, you can escape from them nearly for free. Once you understand the maps well, nobody can pursue you if you escape to a higher floor if they're unequipped. Some scenarios can even cause bounce mat users to not understand how to reach you if the location of your bounce is obscure enough. A movement related pro tip once you've gained some more experience is this. If you're reasonably confident in your skills, moving erratically, sprinting from intel to intel, and then entering a room can allow you to confirm suspicion on an NPC that you believe is a player. Once you've done so, prep your aim at the door and see if the NPC in question has followed you into the room. It might be reasonable to assume that it's actually a player who thinks they've got the upper hand on you. With this, you can gain intel faster and also remain proactive in your gameplay. This is fairly risky though, as you may get shot at while you're sprinting around, so consider using this later on. One pro tip that you can apply early on is that guards might walk into a guard room, opening it for you so that you can then follow behind them. One character that excels in following guards in this way is Madam, who can use her expertise to become the guard from a distance and earn herself a free guard room. This also applies to purple guards as well. You can follow them rarely into purple rooms, so keep an eye out for that too. Always make sure to be wary of taken ammo boxes, opened field upgrade boxes, open drawers, lost and found boxes, etc. If one of these are open, you know a player did it. If it's early in the game, somebody may be very close by. Additionally, only staff members can open drawers. If you see a civilian, guard, or higher opening a drawer, that is a player. When you have the briefcase during the endgame, the speed at which the ping will build up is dependent on whether or not you're sprinting. If you want to space out your pings, try walking to delay it as long as possible to sneak right past tight situations. Your scan pauses the progress on the ping as well. Similarly, Larson may use his expertise expertise to travel freely during its duration, pausing the ping timer. Finally, picking up the briefcase will net you with a full health recovery, including your team if you're playing team modes. In a nutshell, each time that you're revived in teams, you lose an amount of your maximum HP. This essentially negates all the health reduction that you or your team may have received from being eliminated and then being revived afterwards. It's a huge benefit in teams and can also be a massive time saver in solos. Field upgrades are very similar to perks in other video games. In Deceive Inc., you gather field upgrades by spending intel on field upgrade boxes. The cost of these upgrades are equivalent to the cost of the doors. Gray field upgrades cost 1 intel and can spawn out in the open. Green field upgrades spawn in staff rooms and cost 3 intel. Blue field upgrades spawn in guard rooms and the entrance to the vault. They cost 5 intel. Purple field upgrades spawn in technician rooms as well as the inner area of the vault and cost 8 intel. The gold field upgrades are free, but there are only 4 on the map, and they spawn both on top of the briefcase inside of the vault, or primarily in vault terminal rooms. The strength of a field upgrade pertains to its color. Gray field upgrades provide the smallest benefit, but are much more accessible. Gold field upgrades provide the highest benefit, but are arguably the most difficult to obtain. I'll now go over each field upgrade as briefly as I possibly can. The cover accelerator field upgrade increases the speed in which you regain your cover. This is useful for when you find yourself dealing with guards often and need to quickly get back into cover. Extended ammo pouch increases your ammo capacity but not your magazine size. This upgrade seems most useful in teams modes, whereas in solos I'd argue it's fairly unimportant. External hard drive increases your maximum intel capacity, or how much intel you can hold at one time. This is a perfect example to explain the scaling strength of field upgrades based on their color. For intel capacity, if it's assigned to gray, your intel's maximum becomes 12. For green, 14, blue is 16, purple is 18, and gold is 20. At least as of the time of writing this video, though all of this is subject to change based on balance changes in the game in the future. In a nutshell, your field upgrades have stronger effects based on where you slot them in. Overclock chip increases your hacking speed. This applies to hacking intel, doors, lost and found boxes, etc. Some specific things, such as health stations, are unaffected by hack speed, so watch out for that. This was a targeted nerf in the past due to health stations essentially being an instant heal. I'd argue hack speed is one of the most powerful field upgrades in the game. Bulletproof fabric increases your maximum health. This is very straightforward and is also very useful. I'd suggest always taking this upgrade as it'll prevent you from dying to Ace's third weapon's 101 damage scoped headshot if you're spotted out of cover. Again, these numbers are subject to change with balance patches. Social battery is a fairly unique upgrade. This will cause you to heal an amount of health per second while in a social interaction, meaning, for example, sitting, leaning over a desk, watering a plant, sweeping the floor. Basically anything that allows you to select a hologram of your disguise performing an action counts for social battery. This upgrade is much more useful than it may appear at face value, and I would highly suggest trying it out. Nutritional supplement is a somewhat underrated upgrade that allows you to gain increased healing from food items located around the map. Once you're experienced, you can learn the locations of all sources of food on a given map. From this point, this upgrade might just come in extremely handy. If you're in the middle of a fight and happen to grab a quick snack, it could mean the difference of your opponent dealing 115 damage to eliminate you, or them having to deal 230 to eliminate you. By default, you heal 10 health from one piece of food. With a gold upgrade, you heal 35 health. Exfiltration scanner reduces the amount of intel drained while you're scanning with the package, or briefcase. I'll go further into this in the endgame section of the video. The usefulness of this upgrade is questionable as of the writing of this video, but it may become more useful in future updates. That covers all of the individual field upgrades. You'll want to mix and match these, as some upgrades are more useful for certain agents and then others are less useful. The field upgrade deck shown on screen right now is the one that you'll have when you first start the game. I would personally suggest this one that I've handcrafted for you in case you're having troubles winning games and you're just starting out. Feel free to bookmark the video or take a screenshot of this loadout if you'd like to copy it and try it out for yourself. This depends heavily on which agent you're playing as agents like Cav have very short expertise cooldowns, rendering gold expertise cooldown useless. Overall, I'd say experiment and find what feels practical to you. Do you often get gold upgrades? Try slotting max health or hacking speed there. Personally, I'm lazy and I love to use a jack-of-all-trades upgrade build for most of my characters. I can't be bothered to swap around every time I play a different character. This is suboptimal obviously, but this is my go-to build as of the writing of this video. Before I cover the endgame, I'd like to briefly touch on status effects. I may expand further in another video such as a specific agent guide. For now, I'll cover where the information can be found as well as explain a few specific status effects that confuse some players. On the main menu of the game, click the Dossier tab at the top and then click on Status Effects. This will provide you with a full list of all positive and negative status effects and their descriptions. Two specific status effects that confuse many players are Charmed and Heartbroken. Heartbroken. As of the writing of this video, Charmed and Heartbroken are status effects only used by one agent, Red. Her first and third expertise can cause you to become Charmed. This instantly regains your cover, but you gain the effects of Neutralized, meaning you can't use your expertise, as well as Slowed, you move more slowly. Victims that break their own cover while Charmed become Heartbroken, meaning if you shoot or melee, causing your cover to break, it'll then put you into the Heartbroken state. Experienced Red players may shoot near your feet in order to bait you into shooting back. This is because it'll not break your cover when they miss you, so if you shoot back at them, you will become Heartbroken. Heartbroken causes you to gain the effects of Neutralized and Vulnerable, meaning that you cannot use your expertise and you will receive increased damage from all sources. Try to avoid Heartbroken at all costs. For the endgame of Deceive Inc, once all the vault terminals are disabled, the vault opens. The location of the vault doors differ based on which map you're playing on, but you can always rely on navigation mode as we mentioned earlier in the video. You will make your way to the vault opening 2 blue doors and then opening 1 purple door before entering an area surrounded by purple guards and technicians. Inside of this area is where the only gold doors are. This cannot be hacked and requires a golden keycard to net you access to the briefcase. This is the primary objective of Deceive Inc and also what you want to extract with in order to win. In order to get a golden keycard, you'll need to pay 10 intel to activate a vault printer. For 30 seconds, the printer will emit a loud noise alerting any potential nearby players to its location. You'll want to be cautious waiting around for the card to print. I tend to try to gather intel while waiting for the print to finish, as it'll be needed for later on once you've claimed the briefcase. You may also search for another player and try to steal their golden keycard. It's up to you whether you'd like to contest the briefcase room or hang back outside of the vault and try to fight the case holder. Most experienced players will absolutely rush in order to collect the briefcase. The briefcase holder gains vision of players when they use navigation mode at the cost of intel. This puts you at a major disadvantage if you do not grab the case. The downside of carrying the briefcase is that a ping system will mark the location of the holder based on factors I'll go into in a moment. However, there are intelligent ways to use the ping system to your advantage, such as causing players to shoot innocent NPCs by pinging near them, causing them to gain heat, though this isn't easy to do, but overall it can be very difficult to manage. My ultimate advice for this endgame section of the game is to not panic. If you sprint, your pings will go off much more often and players will be able to more easily locate you. Go slow, be sure to always have enough intel to scan, and calmly scan only when you feel it's necessary if you're running low. For reasons like this endgame scenario, hack speed is incredibly powerful as it'll allow you to continue to quickly gather intel, which there tends to be an abundance of in the vault. If you've made it outside of the vault, then you'll want to call in one of the extraction points, A, B, or C. A few seconds after activating the extraction terminal, the car will arrive and you'll need to stand in a large circle around the extraction site in order to win the match. If an opponent stands in the circle at the same time, it'll deny your extraction, pausing the progress meter, at least until they leave or are eliminated. You can do all kinds of crafty things using these extractions to force your opponent into uncomfortable situations. If you and your opponent take damage, you can afford to run and heal. However, they cannot, because they have to prevent you from winning. They are effectively forced to hold their ground. Use this to your advantage because having the briefcase is one of the most powerful and versatile tools in the entire game, which is the exact reason why experienced players try to be the first to grab it. Two important things to keep in mind are that technicians very rarely, if not never, leave the vault. Once you leave the vault, you'll want to grab a fresh disguise if you intend on blending in. Typically, the civilian or staff are very covert and very dangerous to shoot as you'll gain 1 full heat level for guessing wrong. Also, back inside of the vault, it's extremely rare to see a VIP walking around in there as there is only one on the map. Silver Reef being the exception, of course, in which there are 2 VIPs on the map. Regardless, I would highly advise not using the VIP disguise when going through the vault. Most experienced players will instantly become suspicious of you if you're a VIP in the vault. My overall tips would be to enter the vault, try to gather the briefcase, and then remain calm, but you can always make your way there once you feel comfortable. Fighting the briefcase holder is usually best at some key choke points. Most maps have 2 or 3 primary exits the case holder can use to exit the vault. Most players hold these chokes in order to force the case holder into an uncomfortable situation. However, once the briefcase holder gets out of the vault, things can become extremely unpredictable, and that is when the briefcase carrier has the most power. With all the information provided in this video, you should be set to start your matches strong, fight or play passive in the mid-game, and be ready to take on the endgame chaos. I've done my best to cover most general scenarios in this video, but Deceive Inc is a very nuanced game with a lot of unique interactions between players, agents, and game mechanics. We're not going to go into individual agents in this guide, but if you'd like a separate video on that, please do let me know in the comments below. below. And while you're there, how about you tell me what your favorite spy movie is? It's good for the YouTube algorithm, so I'd appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching my guide on Deceive Inc. I'd really appreciate it if you'd like the video, consider subscribing for future content, and if you happen to have any other questions, feel free to ask me in the comments or come check out my Twitch channel over at twitch.tv/fullmetalcroak. I'd love to answer any questions you may have about the game. We also have an incredibly welcoming and positive community. I stream weekdays from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. EST. Thank you again for watching, and take care.